Well, hello there. Welcome to the REI Friends Podcast. I am your host, Catherine Storing, and I just finished speaking with Dan. And this was such a different conversation, but it was very connected. It was very candid, and it was like a workshop on mindset for real estate investors, real estate agents, and anybody in general that deals with the word no, how to get over the word no, how to get the yes, how to connect with people. There was a moment that was almost like show and tell, where Dan kind of reflected back on a moment that we had about talking about something, and he broke down what happened. Oh my God, that was so helpful to me. And I have a feeling it's gonna be very helpful to you. He shared some great information and some resources towards the end of the show. So do not skip and make sure that you listen to the whole thing because it is so good. Connect with him on social media. Make sure that you check the show notes because there are some things that he does on a monthly basis that I know for a fact, if you are a real estate agent, that you will want to know. And if you're not an agent, you know someone that is, and you want to give them that information. So make sure that you're subscribed to the show so you don't miss any of the episodes that we bring you every single week with amazing people that are doing the very thing that you want to do. So without further ado, here is my conversation with Dan. Enjoy. Hi, Dan. Welcome to the REI Friends Podcast. How are you?
Fantastic. Thank you for asking. How are you?
I'm doing pretty awesome. I was just telling you that I got a new plant, so I'm pretty happy.
Have you named it yet?
I have not named her yet, and all my plants are she, by the way, in case you didn't know.
Okay. Of course.
Awesome. So for those that don't, people that don't know you, can you tell us a little bit about you?
Yeah. My name's Dan Rochan, and I have been in the real estate world for about 20 some years or something like that in all sorts of capacities, from investing to a real estate broker and to an author, podcaster, and everything in between.
Okay, that sounds awesome. 20 plus years. So just a few years after I was born, right?
Yes. It was the day of your birthday. I got into real estate investing.
Exactly. That makes sense. So, what's your favorite? How do you get into real estate?
Well, so real estate investing, I got into probably like the late 90s, early 2000s, somewhere in that ballpark. And at the time, I was waiting tables at a really high-end steakhouse in Washington, D.C. And I knew that I wanted to, wanted to be an entrepreneur. I just didn't quite know what the pathway was. So somewhere along that time period, I got started investing in real estate and did some flips, did some buy and holds, did some wholesaling. Eventually, 2007, I got my real estate license, and that was when I was able to transition out from waiting tables to becoming a real estate agent. And that's my primary business today, is a real estate agent.
Oh, that's awesome. So how do you learn? How do you know about real estate? Did somebody in your life know about it or tell you? Did you read a book? How do you get started?
Yeah, I don't, I listened to a lot of podcasts. I'm a learning based person, right? So I just love learning. And so if there's something that I don't know, I think, today everything's at your fingertips. I mean, you can figure it out. And so, a lot through networking, a lot through researching, a lot through reading. I don't necessarily have one book that I would, say, hey, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I know a lot of people, Kiyosaki is an author that a lot of people will point to. Actually, for me, I'll say it this way. There was once upon a time a real estate investor who I used to read a lot of his books. He became a politician. And so then I stopped following him around that time. So that's probably some of the first real estate books that I read.
Got it.
I'll just leave it at that.
Absolutely. And it's funny how people can be really great at something and not so good at other things. And we can still use the good stuff, right?
Yeah. So
I love it.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. So we get it. We know who you're talking about.
I didn't say any names. Come on.
Say nothing.
Yeah, but I read a lot of his books early on, and like I said, it was really more trial by fire. It was also a little bit accidental as well, right? Because my first property that I bought was a townhome that I ended up going to Home Depot, and I got a Home Depot credit card. I got a $3,000 credit on that, and I built a basement. I built a bathroom in the basement. So I remember we rented a jackhammer. We did everything on the cheap. And then I rented out the basement for like, I don't know, $750 a month, something like that. So like 4 months later, I had my $3,000 back. And then and then after that, it was profit. I was like, oh, hey, this is pretty cool. And, I was paying like half my mortgage at the time. And so then I met my wife. We moved in together at another property that we bought together. So then, she had her condo that she owned. I had my townhome that we owned. Then we had another townhome that we bought together. So now we own 3 properties. It's like, oh, wait, we're sort of accidental landlords. And that was really sort of the start of buy and hold in that sense.
Yeah, I love how you said it was kind of accidental and trial by error, right? Just getting started and see what happens. So you were house hacking basically.
Yeah, I would say that. Yeah, it was house hacking. I probably before I did that or somewhere in that time period, I also did some subject to deals. I did some wholesale deals, that type of thing. And like I said, I would go to like real estate investing networks, and I would meet the speakers, and I'm still friends with people that ran those networks 20 years later. I'm still one of my best friends. I met him. He was running one of those groups 20 years ago, and I met him, and we're still good friends today. So there's a lot of networking out there even today that you can do. But today you can meet people online like you and I mean, right. We can know each other, and we don't have to be in the same even the same place. So it's pretty cool the way that technology can let us all network to do together today.
That is so good. No, I hear that connections and networking is the way to go. And it's a very small world, right? So you definitely don't want to burn your bridges or do things that you might get away with, but people talk in this industry, sounds like. So
yeah, I would say if I was getting started today, and one of the best lessons I think that I learned early on, just in the investment piece of it, is if you find a deal, the money will follow. And, and I still today believe that that's true. If somebody was to present me a deal today, I'm going to buy it, or do something with it, assuming that's really a deal, and so, that I think takes away the fear of getting started. And so if you're the person that finds a deal and you bring in an investor to go ahead and do the deal, yes, you'll make less money, but it will allow for you to sort of get things started. And just like that first thing that I wholesaled, I maybe made $5,000. I don't know. I don't remember how much it was. That's a lot of money, right? But it wasn't a lot of money, right? But it wasn't like a life-changing amount of money. And, but it was enough money to sort of say, okay, hey, wait, I like this. I can do this, and just sort of stacking that. And then I got my real estate license because I decided that it was easier to find somebody that wants to traditionally sell a house than to find a needle in a haystack to be able to wholesale. And so that's sort of what caused me to get my license. And then I started a career in brokering real estate.
That's so good. I love what you said, that if you find a deal, but it's really a deal. So how did you figure it out for yourself that a deal was in fact a deal?
Well, before I say how I know it's a deal, I say what I think you should look for. What I look for, there's 3 things. So the 3 things that I look for today are, has the property owner owned it for a long period of time? And I'm talking like 20 plus years, 20 to 30 years, and closer to 30 years is even better. So if they own it for a long period of time, that's number 1. Number 2 is it distressed? And then number 3, do they have a motivation to sell? And what I find is when those 3 things align, then that could be an opportunity. Okay. So as a real estate agent, I find deals today, not by looking for them. I find deals today by people, talking to me to potentially list their property. And then when I get a conversation, when those 3 things exist, and then I can present to them, I say, okay, listen, I'm going to give you 3 options. Here's the 3 options. Option A is I can have, a check in your hand in 6 days, 7 days. By next Tuesday, I can have a check in your hand and you do nothing. Option B would be that we'll do some improvements and we'll resell it. And that will be for the greatest profit. And then option C would be that we would place it on the market today as in an as-is condition. And that would be the middle profit for you right there. And so now I'm able to offer them solutions. But I find that those three things right there are the criteria that I'm looking for. And then how do I know it's a deal? It's really just what's the after repair value? How much money is it going to take to improve it? And then how much, what can I buy it for? Now I know that a lot of people are saying like 72% is a good number to consider, but in my market, we're a higher price point, so like $500,000 is like the floor of my market. So, we have a little bit of luxury to be able to have the margins shrink a bit. But certainly the larger your margins are, the safer that you are. What I would definitely recommend for people to not do is to speculate, and that's something that, if you're anticipating the future growth of the market, that's probably a bad decision.
Yeah, that's so good. I love so many things that you said. So just to go back a little bit, go back maybe a lot. You said
go back 3 steps.
Exactly. And then we'll go back, right? So you said if you find a deal, you'll find the money. Yeah. And I know that's one of the biggest barriers for newbies, for people getting started. So how do you develop that mindset of knowing that once you met that criteria that, this is a good deal, that the right people or an investor will say, I want part of it because they're going to make money and we all going to make money.
Yeah, I think you need to have those connections set up before you find the deal. And so there's people who I'm in a relationship with today where, I'm on the other side of that now. So I would be the investor today. And so there's people that call them bird dogs, call them wholesalers, whatever you want to, call them. But they're from time to time, I'll get a phone call and say, hey, Dan, here's something that I'm looking at. What are your thoughts? And so really, I would say if this was 20 years ago, the first thing I would do is I would establish some relationships. The best place you could find those relationships would be the investing network, and find a half a dozen or so people who could potentially be interested in a deal. And then when you find one, just give them a call, and if it is a deal, they'll let you know, and they'll let you know if they're interested.
That's good. That is so good. Okay. So the other thing that I love that you were talking about, it sounds like you're giving your customer options in your list. So that means that you have to listen first to what they need. You give them options. And the way you presented it to me, it didn't sound like you were leaning one way or another. Obviously, you have your preference, but presenting it that way lets the customer know that you have their best interest at heart. Am I right?
Yeah, I don't really have a preference. I really don't. I mean, I look at it as if I can provide solutions to somebody's problem, then, I'm going to make money, right? I mean, Zig Ziglar going way back. You probably never heard of Zig, right? That was like in your grandfather's time. So, so I actually saw Zig Ziglar at the in DC before he passed away. It was really? It was pretty cool. Yeah, I met him, and that was many years ago. But he says that if you share enough value with somebody else, your goals will always be met. So if you help somebody else, you never have to worry about how you're going to eat. And I believe that as well. So I don't have a preference of A, B, or C. What I know is that I can offer solutions. And then in the outcome of that, in any of those scenarios, I'm going to get paid. I may get paid more in one scenario than another, but on the other side of that, I'll also take a greater risk on one side rather than the other as well. And then actually there's a fourth option I could throw in there as well, which would be to loan them the money to do the improvements. That would actually, if I did have a preference, that'd probably be my preference.
Okay. That's so good. Yeah. So it sounds like you have this long-term mentality where you're going to make money either way. And on the flip side, they know people, and that might not be the last house they buy. So you might benefit from that relationship if you take care of them the first time around.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of times, like when I'm in that scenario, I'm thinking of a couple times right now. Let me explain to you like a scenario if I could. Yeah, so, all right. So here's the scenario. So I did a deal a few years ago with a couple who were in their 80s, late 80s. And they were from Japan and they lived in the United States for 50 years. And the house that they owned it for 35 years. So again, longevity and ownership. It was horrific condition, so distressed. And check out their motivation. So when I met with them, I said to them, well, what's causing you to want to sell? And they said, we want to move back to Japan. I was like, I was curious about that because, they're almost 90 years old. I'm like, well, why would you, you've been here for most, half your life at least. And now you want to go to Japan. I said, so what's important to you about moving to Japan? They said, well, we want to go there and we want to die. Like, okay. Right. Now that's a motivation right there.
Yeah.
Where, they're at the place in their life where they're just like, listen, we don't want to have the hassle of this. Mm-hmm. And so that for them, getting a check within 7 days was very advantageous. Like that was appealing to them, because they had no mortgage on the property, and whatever the check was, was, probably $400,000 or $500,000. They're like, okay, yeah, this is great. So that's a scenario there where if I wasn't the investor in that and I was the bird dog or the wholesaler, and I found that opportunity and then I presented it to an investor, I'm sure the investor, the margins were great. So I'm sure the investor would have been interested in that.
Right. So it sounds like being human, it's important. So listening to your customer, what they need, what's their motivation. And number two is educating yourself to know the right people and to know how to analyze the deal. So as a newbie, where will you, if you're starting today from scratch, how will you educate yourself to know what a good deal is?
Again, it's really just knowing the marketplace. The market over the last 2 years has appreciated at a really incredible pace. I believe where we are today is I believe that we're at a plateau. And I believe that because of, 25% appreciation over a 2.5 year period of time is not sustainable. Interest rates today are double than they were. The lowest interest rate was January 2021. They were average around 2.62% for a 30-year mortgage. Today, they're at 5.5+%. That's more than double, right? So you're looking at all the indicators are saying that we're at a plateau, or we're cresting downward in the marketplace right now. So knowing that, like having that knowledge is just sort of general knowledge. How would somebody know that? Well, by listening to a show like yours and listen to a guy like Dan, just share that information with them, right? So to be able to find the information, it does take a little bit of legwork. It takes a little bit of research. And again, it's just, just Google what's going on in the real estate market today. Right. Like that would sort of be a starting point. So you at least have an understanding of, is the market appreciating? Is it balanced? Is it declining? Whatever the case may be. And then making those connections with people at the investor networks and, and taking a look at a couple different deals. If you think it's a deal and you presented it to an investor, they will help educate you, in a pretty quick period of time. Yeah. Well, it's not, investors come from all, some will be, generous with their time. Some may not be, really, I would say find some people who you resonate with, who you connect with, and then, get connected with them. And then you'll be able to learn from their mentorship.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I have found adding value opens doors really quickly, because it's one thing to ask someone that's established, that's doing deals and making money. Their time is literally money. So asking questions with the intention of learning and adding value makes a big difference. So just saying, hey, what are you working on? How can I add value to you? Like, how do somebody in my network or me, myself, picking up laundry, whatever it is. For me, it's like using my skills as a writer. I have reached out to several people and offered my services just so I can be close to them. And I'm not begging, I'm adding value and learning at the same time. So that's another way that I have educated myself, is just by saying, how can I make your life easier?
Yeah. How can I help you is probably the most important thing that you could make a habit of asking other people, because you can't assume what does Kat need. Like, I can't assume what you need. I could maybe make some guesses. They may be in the general vicinity of what you need, but it's really sort of simple. Say, hey, how can I help you? And if you ask that question of somebody that you think that maybe a beneficial relationship, it's about giving first, and then in return, you'll be able to get some help yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah. People cannot realize that law of reciprocity. People cannot help themselves. If you help them, they're gonna ask you if they have these, and they're like, okay, how can I help you now that you have done this thing for me? I remember today I went to Whole Foods and I was feeling like I wanted some pesto, and I know where they keep it, right? So I go to the place they keep it and it was not there, and I almost left. And I'm like, no, they have to have it. So I went to the deli. They said, oh, we don't have it. So the guy walked me to the thing. He's like, but maybe they know, the cheese people. So at that point, I had another chance of giving up. I'm like, I'm right here. I'm gonna ask the cheese people. And I'm like, hey, you don't have it in the olive bar anymore. Where's the pesto? They're like, oh, we don't have it there anymore. However, you can, we have it looking that in the pesto section. I'm like, was this a pesto section in a whole different area? Now I asked 3 people and I had 3 opportunities to give up. So it's very easy for newbies to say, I asked one investor and they said no. Or I tried to follow up with this podcast person and they didn't have time for me. But if you really want something, you're going to keep asking until you're going to stumble with the right people.
Yeah, I know. It's just, here's the thing. My primary thing today, I coach agents, I sell real estate. I look at myself as a real estate agent. Okay. Mm-hmm. That's like, if I have a hat on, that's one of my identities. And a no is just, should be expected. Right. Mm-hmm. And I say a bit about me being a real estate agent because I take today, I had 3 appointments today, and they were 3 appointments that were not the best. My last appointment I had was with this 93-year-old gentleman who was a sweetheart, retired trial attorney, and we're taking a look at his property. He wants to take me on a ride through his neighborhood to show me all the neighbors. And again, 93 years old, highly dominant personality, big risk taker, 93 years old. I'm riding with him and I was getting nauseous. I was getting car sick. Ooh. Right? Like that was the experience that I had. Right. Right. Anyways, his expectations was way off the mark. He wanted to get $1.5 million for a house that was worth $900,000. And so that was a no. Right. Oh, and, and so that's just another no and the process of getting to the yes. So you have to understand that, you're going to get a lot of no's if you want to get yeses.
Right. But you got some information. It's like whenever I get lost, I always know, I make a mental note because I know eventually I'm going to end up in that street again and I'll remember where I'm at because I got lost first. So maybe you made a connection. That guy probably is lonely. So you gave him your time. Yeah. So that was a no today. Who knows if he calls you back and talk to another investor that's not so nice, another realtor that's not as nice as you, or he realizes, hey, my house is only worth $900,000. Maybe I'm gonna call that nice guy Dan that heard me, ramble for hours and hours.
Oh, he was a sweetheart. He was a sweetheart. I loved talking to the guy. I enjoyed it. I was afraid I was going to be late for this conversation, right? So I'm grateful that, at 5:30, I'm like, hey, I got to go.
I got to go. See, I saved you today.
Thank you. You are a sweetheart. You are fantastic. Thank you very much.
You are very welcome. Excuses. You got to have them sometimes. Oh my God. So let me ask you this. So we talk a little bit about you as a realtor. Where are you and your wife as investors today?
Today, I primarily in a position of being a lender, primarily. Okay. I do have, some commercial property, and I will probably do like 3 or 4 flips a year myself. Okay. It's not my primary thing to do. And the easiest thing for me to do is really just be the lender because though I'm taking a great deal of risk, there's zero legwork that's involved in it. Yeah. And so, that's really where I've, basically positioned myself today.
Yeah, no, it's so good to know. I have talked to so many people that do real estate investing in different capacities. Sure. And I love the people that have done it for a while because the way they start is not the way that they end up. And that's the beauty of trying different things to find your niche and find what you enjoy. So you had a keyword there, is less work for you. And that works for you. You want to have probably life balance or spend more time doing other things.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it before, Kat. I mean, you're like, time is an asset. And as you grow in business, you start to realize that. I mean, my biggest asset today is my time. I would rather risk money than waste time, because time you don't get back. You can always make a mistake and earn money back. Okay. And I've been against the ropes, right? I've been against the ropes with money where I've been below zero, well below zero, and work my way out of that. And so what I realized by that is that, you can always earn money, but you can't get time back. So once you start relating to time in that capacity, then, you start respecting it, I think, greater, more so.
It's amazing. My daughter, it's 18 and she's going to college in a couple months. Now, I didn't have her when I was 18, by the way.
I was trying to do the math here. I'm like, all right. Yeah.
I help you. I was 28. Okay. So I'm like, how is she 18? Like, she was just born, and you have kids, right? So it's like, how on earth did they grow up so fast? So time does go by really quickly.
Yeah. I've got a daughter. She's 11. And,
wow.
That is my, here's the thing. So she's 11 years old, and she's only going to be 11 years old once.
Yeah.
Right. It's not like, I think a relationship with like maybe an adult child becomes different.
Yep.
You still cherish it, but it starts to become, sort of like a different type of equilibrium, where your 18-year-old daughter, she's only 18 once. And that's different. When she's 28, then it's going to be a little bit of a difference in your relationship, and you'll still cherish it, of course, right? But you're not going to, she'll probably be pretty much the same woman at 28 as 38. But between 10 and 18, I mean, my goodness, that's a big difference.
Big difference. Yeah, for sure. So valuing time, if somebody's listening or watching and they are in need of a lender, how do you like to be approached, or who do you take seriously when they come to you and say, hey, Dan, I want some of your money?
Well, the first thing that I would be curious about is what their experience is. So there's a lot of there's a lot of people who would maybe not have the experience to be able to do a deal. And so for me, I don't want to have to get involved in it myself. I could, but again, if I do so, then that's going to mean that I'm giving up time. So really, I think it's the experience that I'm looking for most. So if you're a newbie and you're listening to that, you're like, oh, okay, I don't have the experience. So then that goes back into finding that mentor, partnering with that mentor who does have the experience, and now it makes sense.
Right. Or needs your expertise, because I've seen it. Like I don't know if you know about ClickFunnels, but I love ClickFunnels. It's like a software platform for people that want to do funnels and stuff. And I remember this kid, for us, a kid, his 20s or something, mid-20s, and he just wanted to work at ClickFunnels. So he taught himself how to do funnels, and he got to work with one of the owners and founders of the company. And he learned just by being in that environment. And within a few years, he had a multi-million-dollar company, but he gave his time. Right. So he had someone willing to talk to him because he had a skill that the other person needed. So another way it would be probably for that person to find out, maybe don't give me your money now, but what can I take off of your hands that you don't want to do? If you were looking, if you were open to that.
I got a relationship with a gentleman today. He's 19 years old. And this guy, he's more mature than the 40-year-olds that I know.
Yeah.
And he helps me in my business from time to time. And though I'm uncomfortable saying this, I'm a mentor in his life. And the reason why I say I'm uncomfortable with that, because that sort of suggests like a hierarchy. And I don't look at life that, in that fashion, not from like, I look at, I just don't, it makes me uncomfortable. Right. But I do know that he comes to me for advice and that type of thing. And where that relationship will go, I don't know, and I don't want anything from it. Like, I'm not looking for anything, but I know that he's definitely helping me. And to the best of my ability, I'm helping him as well. And maybe 10 years from now, he comes to me for a loan. In 2 seconds, I'd tell you right now, yes. right? Like I don't need to know anything else because he's already earned my trust. He's already earned that, and I trust that he wouldn't approach me 10 years from now with something that doesn't make sense.
That is so good. Thank you for sharing that story, because many people want to go, like the analogy of meet someone, marry me tomorrow, right? Instead of let's go for coffee, like it's really developing that trust and that foundation of I'm a consistent person. I do and what I say I'm going to do. And now you're saying, hey, tomorrow he asked, he already earned it. It's such a huge thing. So
it's like, it's almost, I hadn't even really thought about this. So thank you for helping me think about this, but it's almost like he's putting deposits in the bank for the future.
Exactly.
And he's not withdrawing anything at all. I mean, maybe he's withdrawing some like mentor. What he's withdrawing right now takes zero energy from me and I get joy from it. Right. He was asking me for some advice last week, and he's getting ready to move to Los Angeles. I'm in Northern Virginia. And he was asking me, like, he's like, Dan, if there was one piece of life advice you would give me, what would it be? I said, look, man, you're 19 years old. Have fun. When you are going to consider get married, that's the most important decision you're ever going to make in your life.
Yep.
Right. And that was the advice I gave him. Right. Like that cost me nothing. That was my experience that caused me to be able to share that with him. Right. And I did make the right choice in my marriage. Right. But I realized the impact that relationship has is tremendous. So if you're young, pay attention.
Exactly. And just imagine, like, he spent time with you. He probably seen your relationship with your wife, and he can see that it's a successful relationship, right? So when you say that, when you give that advice, he's listening with a different ear because he's seeing the fruit, right? So that advice, even though it's not real estate related, it is part of his life, and he'll listen because you have something to back it up with.
Yeah. And I hope he does listen, right? Because I know that's an impactful advice right there, for somebody to follow that. And, I told him, I said, treat dating like you're not going to date the first woman you date is not going to be the one. And maybe, but it's not. Maybe. Right. Like be careful in everything that you're doing. Right. But make sure you find the right one, the one that brings you up, pulls you up, inspires you, and that's what I was sharing with him.
That's so good. I'm so excited for him. I'm sure he's learning a lot, and just the way he found you or you found him, our listeners and watchers can find that person in their life that maybe they don't call it, like, you don't want to call it mentorship, but that's what he's getting, right? He's getting advice, he's getting friendship with guidance, some of that, if you want to call it something. But they can find that person that, because the way they show up in the relationship, because everything, even the person that makes you coffee, within that time, that is a relationship. So the way you show up, it's gonna probably open doors for you.
Yeah, but remember, he approached a relationship with, Dan, what could I do for you? Just like what we were talking about earlier. He approached a relationship with, how can I help you? And, and I said, hey, well, if you're interested, I'd love for you to make some phone calls for me. I'll pay you for it. I'll compensate you for it. I'll help teach you. I'll help train you. And, this would be this will be advantageous to my business. So, and he's like, yep, I'm in.
Nice.
So he does that a couple days a week. Yeah.
That is so good. So earlier you said that in your business, like even today, you got a few no's, right? So how did you always have that mentality that you didn't get bummed out because you got those no's? So how do you get to that point of knowing today is a no, but tomorrow I might get a yes or a couple of yeses?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I don't believe in no.
Okay.
I really don't believe in no. I believe that no is just an obstacle to a yes. And I think that if you approach things, like for me to actually accept a no, I would have had to have went through a process of asking and debating and approaching it from multiple different ways. And what I find is that we get lazy because the reality of this, if you're thinking like the interaction between two human beings, the interaction, I got fur all over me right now. Sorry.
Too much.
Like it's like in the air right here. Sorry.
Everywhere.
So the relationship between two people, right? So you have one person to ask the other person something. Well, the person that's being asked is going to be lazy, and a no is the laziest thing to be able to do. You go into Nordstrom's, can I help you? Well, actually not Nordstrom's, that's a bad example. You go to Macy's,
Right.
can I help you? No. Right.
No,
Like
every time. That's why I don't go there. I hate
right.
it.
Well, right. Yeah. It's because it's the pathway of easiest resistance.
Yeah.
Right. And so when you hear that no, then you really have to get to like, just asking questions. Right. And so what I find is that when you start, I use what I call I run a coaching company called CPI Coaching for Real Estate Agents. And we have this thing called the CPI communication model, which is to be in rapport, to ask adept questions, and then to actively listen. Right. So when you approach communication in that manner, when you approach communication with, okay, first I'm going to be in rapport. Well, what's rapport? Rapport is a connectivity. So we're energetic beings. Everything in the world, I'm holding up, if you're listening, I'm holding up a yellow sticky note right now. This yellow sticky note is energy. Your energy, I'm energy, right? And so when you're in rapport, it's that connectivity of energy. So once you are able to be able to do that, you really have to be present to the person who you're communicating with. Right. So now you're in rapport with somebody, then you ask adept questions. So what's an adept question? An adept question is to drive a conversation to a direction for an intended outcome. So for example, if I'm looking for a yes, then I'm going to first be in rapport with you, and then I'm going to ask you adept questions to guide you to a yes. Then the most important thing to this is to actively listen. So as I'm actively listening, then I'm paying attention to when somebody says no, that's really just sort of a smoke screen to a yes, or a smoke screen to me asking a question. Well, if you could do this, what would you do? Something along those lines, right? And so first of all, I don't believe in the no's. Secondly, when you ask me the question about, that I have to have a lot of no's before I get to the yes. Well, that's still true. Understand that that's still true, and understand that the most successful people in this world are the biggest failures. And so what do I mean by that? I mean that Elon Musk has been told no more than you and me combined times 10,000.
Yeah.
No, combined times 10,000, right? Not just combined. I don't know. I'm just making numbers up, right? Who knows?
Yeah, no,
right?
I get it. Yeah.
But it's a multitude. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you look at the most successful people, and success is just a perception anyways. So I don't even enjoy the word success because it's all subjective and make believe anyways. Okay. Yep. But let's pretend that Elon Musk is successful. Okay. I think that's an easy person that you could say that about. Yep. I know that he has heard way more no's than the majority of people on this planet, which would make him the biggest failure. So if you want to be the biggest success, you also have to be willing to be able to hear those no's and then just not make any meaning of it and go to the next.
Right. That is so good. So what I hear is that if you build rapport the right way, you're going to know when to ask the question that gives you the yes. Is that right?
Yes. And what you're displaying right now, Kat, is impressive because what you're displaying is active listening. Right. And so I'm pointing that out for know that you're doing that. I'm pointing that out for your listeners and viewers, because what Kat just did was she said, well, what I heard you saying is, so you're checking in with me to make sure that you understand or you're connecting on a level. And that would be an example of the way that you could, let's say you're approaching somebody, let's say for the example of that Japanese couple that I mentioned to you. Right. And they share with you something along the lines of, well, we don't want to have to do any improvements for this house, and we want to move to Japan. And you can repeat back like you just did. Well, what I hear you saying is the most important thing to you right now is just moving to Japan. Is that true? Yes. Could you tell me more about that? That's okay. Cool. And that could be just I'm just sort of pulling that out as a type of interaction where maybe, if you just went and door knocked them, maybe they just slammed the door in your face, right? Well, that's a no, but that's just a no because your timing's off. Right. Because that same person that says no today, as a real estate agent, I approach people, I approach 250 people a week at least to see how I may be able to help them. And the difference between somebody who needs my help and who doesn't is the difference between someone who's going to shut the door in my face or someone who's going to be receptive. But it doesn't mean that the person shuts the door, my face is rude. It just means that they're not willing to engage because the timing's not right.
Right. Yeah, that is so good. As I see we're talking, I realize why I'm listening to you and how that can help me in general. And I think the listeners and watchers too, is that I have no agenda. Like I want nothing from you.
Yeah.
And that allows me to, I'm free. I'm not waiting to sell you. I'm not waiting to get the catch-up or anything. I'm just having a conversation with someone. And that's the part of many people forget, especially people in real estate. They forget to be human. They're so, and it comes from a good place most of the time. They're so gung-ho on getting the deal and getting on the board, whatever those what podcast names, catchphrases are that I can't stand, right? So they forget to be human, right? And then they don't get the thing that they want because they're so focused on that thing that they forget to be in the moment. And that, to me, is the best thing that we can do for anybody, whether you want something from them or not, is to just, that thing's in the back of your mind, but how can we be here right now?
Yeah, I think for me, I think it's partly experiential, right? So, I want to be transparent, right? Because I'm able to do that easier today than 10, 15, 20 years ago. And I'm able to do that easier today is because I know if, like, for example, the 3 appointments that I had today were all not ideal appointments. And they weren't ideal appointments, not because I couldn't have gotten hired, because I could have gotten hired in all 3 of them, but I chose in all 3 of them to pass, which is incredibly unusual for me. Okay. But I knew that it just didn't make sense to get myself into a situation that that's not winnable, that doesn't have a pathway to success. And so one of those 3, I think that we may end up doing something, because I told her, I said, listen, I understand that you want $450,000 for your property. And if that's the case, I respect you very much, but I'm going to have to remove myself from applying for the job to help you, because I can't do that. What I can do is I can get you $385,000 for the property.
So good.
And she just stopped, and then she's like, all right, well, let's talk tomorrow. Was the end of the conversation. All right, well, let's talk tomorrow. Right. Because I'm honest with her. I'm like, listen, I'm not going to because I've seen that happen. I've experienced that as a real estate agent, right? I've taken that listing before, and it just doesn't make sense. It's frustrating. It's time consuming. You're wasting time, money, energy. And I'd rather say no and go find somebody that's going to say yes to you, because, and God willing, I hope that what you're thinking is true. Yeah. I just don't believe that it's true, and it's not true for me. So if at the end it makes sense, and you want to maybe look at this from a different perspective, I'd love to to be able to help you. Yeah.
That is so good. As you were telling the story, I love how you first of all acknowledge the fact that, hey, that number, it might be true for you. Like, I respect that. So that was my first favorite thing. Yeah, I respect that. And 2, you didn't really say no. You counter offer, which is so good, right? Like, you gave me a number. Respectfully, I am going to give you this other number. And I think if you had said, lady or sir, you're out of whack, you're crazy.
You're crazy, lady.
Who's going to give you all that money? Are you insane? Like, go waste somebody else. Like, if you got salty, I think you would have ended the conversation, right? But you were like, no, I respect you. However, how about this? That was so good.
It goes back to like what you're saying. You're talking to a human being. Right. Yeah. Just like what you're saying, is like, we're having a human connection, and that doesn't, like, I still want to leave with a human connection. I still want to leave everybody who I interact with in a better place than when I found them. Yeah. Right. And that seems a little bit like woo-woo or whatever the case may be, but I really truly believe that. Yeah. And that doesn't mean that I'm perfect at that. Right. There's times when I don't do that. But more times than not, I do that. And it's really more times than not what my intention is. And so if somebody disagrees with me, I don't need to be right. I know I used to teach real estate agents to get their licenses. And one of the things that I see in that my industry is that I see a lot of times that agents feel as though they need to be right. And I would teach agents, listen, you don't get paid to be right.
Yeah.
You get paid to facilitate a transaction. So whether if you're right or wrong, it doesn't matter. Your job is to facilitate a transaction, which means sometimes you may be sitting in a 93-year-old on the passenger of a 93-year-old driver that's going through the neighborhood at a god awful rate of speed, avoiding every single garbage can in the neighborhood. I would not have, that's not the way I would have approached that appointment if it was my call, right? But I had to be able to accommodate him and, so to be able to adjust the way that I'm going to approach the situation.
That is so good. I hope that the listeners and watchers are taking notes, because this is such a great education in life in general, but for those that are listening because of real estate, this is a great foundation to build on. And to remember, like, it's a great reminder to be human and listen, just ask questions and don't be right. Because I always, like, you know what, I don't know who says this, but it's like, if you win, sometimes you win and you lose.
Yeah.
And who wants that?
It's you don't win anything by being right. The only thing that you win is you win your ego. Right. It's an egotistical win. But you end up in a place of probably you're frustrated.
Yep.
Right. Like, so it's like, even in that, even emotionally, it's a loss. Right. Because to make somebody else bad and wrong, there's some sort of agitation within yourself to do that. Right. It's like, so it's just like, you know what? Everybody in this world on this planet is doing the very best that they could do, given the tools and resources that they have available to them. And I truly believe that. Even somebody who's like a thug, somebody who doesn't do good things,
right?
Their tools and resources that they have position them to be in a place to be a thug. Their lack of education or lack of upbringing, or their lack of being in a culture to be able to accommodate success, whatever the case may be, and maybe it's survival. Right. Does that mean that it's not wrong to go rob somebody? I mean, my first kiss with my wife, I got robbed. The two of us, we got robbed at gunpoint during our first kiss.
Wow. She'll never forget that.
Well, she says, listen, this is my fault, because I said that the first kiss of with the man of my dreams was going to be memorable. I just didn't say to leave the guns out. That's what she says.
She manifested a robbery.
So you got this right. So, but here's the thing: those guys that robbed me, is that wrong? Yeah, absolutely, it's wrong, right? But does that mean that given the tools and resources that they had, they were just making what they thought was the only choice that they had? I mean, it was a stupid choice, I think. I mean, I know it's a stupid choice, right? Yeah. But I could still say, okay, I can have love for humanity, but I still have whatever's just should happen.
Yes.
I had somebody embezzle $10,000 from me once. Wow. And I remember she was a CFO for a company I used to own. And I remember going to church every single Sunday. I remember the prayer, because I said it for 6 months while we were going through court with this. And I said, God, let me love her. Let me understand she has a disease. Let me understand that she is sick. And let me make sure that I follow to every extent that I could possibly go through the law process, and then accept whatever the outcome was. Okay. Now, guess what? This is the same courthouse that Johnny Depp just went through, right? The same courthouse, Fairfax County Court. That's where I live, right? Yeah, the same courthouse, right? That's all just finishing. I don't know when you're watching this, but that's Johnny Depp just the court trial just ended today, or just ended.
You found out today.
They found out. I won't ruin it for you. I won't ruin it for you. It's already out there. I won't ruin it for you. I'll let you go find out. I won't ruin it for you. But anyway, so in that courthouse, the detective came up to me and he said that he wanted to drop the charges, and I said no. And he says, well, it was the detective, not the prosecutor. The detective came to me. He says that the state wants to drop the charges. Will you drop the charges? And I said no. And then the reason why they wanted to drop the charges is because they had to subpoena people from different states because she forged checks, and they had to get somebody from the headquarter. And because it's 10,000, a tremendous amount of money, but it wasn't enough money for them to go through that hassle. The state prosecutor came over. He said, "Will you drop the charges?" I said, "No." And the state prosecutor says, "We're dropping the charges." I said, "Okay." And I got up, I left, and I was at peace.
Right.
I was committed that the courts. What my hope was that she would go to prison.
Right.
I can still love her. I can still understand that she's sick, but I can still say I'm going to do my job.
Yeah.
So it does, so you got to, you could be in a bad position. I don't know how we got talking about this. Talking about cat fur today. I don't know. I talk about real estate investing. Sorry.
Right. It's just going through the process and trusting that everything happens for a reason. You're probably better than me, because I remember a time that I went to court with somebody just to be there for moral support, and it didn't go the way that we wanted to. And I chased the person. I'm not proud of this, but I did. I chased the person down the steps, and I said, I quoted, it was so funny. And I was like righteous. I'm like, "Vengeance is mine, says the Lord. I will repay."
I'm not getting on your bad list.
You don't want to do that, because I'm going to send God after you. Listen, within a week, one of the people down within a week. Wow. And that's the one time that I gave somebody a curse, but it was a clean one. But you just got to watch what you do. Some people, will send God after you.
Well, here's the thing. Me owning the stress and the anger and the hurt and the feeling taken advantage of and feeling metaphorically raped. I mean, I'm not comparing it to that, but feeling taken advantage of, right? Like, that's the way that I felt. And it wasn't until I got at peace with that and still was committed to following the process before I felt good. And so what I realized was, me being pissed off is not helping anybody. It's not helping me, regardless if it's helping anybody else, right? And so that's not healthy for me. So I'm not going to let her take that from me. She took my money, but she's not going to take she's not going to take my emotion.
No, and I remember now. So what happened was, we're talking about the no, and if you hold on to the no, it's just going to drag you down, right? But if you let it go, it happened. Let's go after the next yes. Let's just put it together like that. How about that?
I don't pay attention to no's. Yeah.
That's so good.
Thanks for pulling all that back together for us.
Yes, you got it. You're welcome. So as we wrap up, because oh my God, we can talk forever. It's been such a great education on sales mindset. So good. So if you were starting, like, looking at all that you have learned, what would you have liked to know when you started that you know now about your career?
The first thing that comes to my mind is a little bit vague. It's not specific, but what it is that, I guess it's specific enough, that people have lived before us, and success leaves clues and so does failure. And I would say that it would be smart to pay attention. And so whatever it is, something that I think is a cursed word is the word how. This is great. If you're a new investor right now, this is the word that will curse you, the word how. Because what the word how does, it has the ability to be able to get in the way of a potential dream. Because you can sit there and you can say, I want to be whatever. I want to do whatever. I want to have whatever. And then the next word that comes up is like, well, I don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
So here's a methodology that I would recommend for somebody to consider. Take a look in the mirror right now. Take a look at yourself and say, here's a person. Here's what that person looks like. Then consider, is somebody from the same background as me, the same ethnicity, the same race, the same whatever, education level. Sorry, I'm trying to get my camera here. Is somebody that looks a lot like me, same opportunity from me, and have they achieved whatever it is that I want to achieve? I want to be a real estate investor. Okay, well, let's get specific. What does that mean? I want to own 100 multifamily, 100 doors for multifamily. Great. Well, first of all, you got to put away the word how to be able to even say that. Because
Right.
what most people will be like, yeah, I can't do that because I don't know how. Let's put that away for a second. I want to own 100 doors. Now, has somebody been your age, got started into the real estate investing community with the same background as you, the same everything else, and they now today own 100 doors, 100 multifamily units? And if the answer to that is yes, now you just found your how. Do what they did.
So good.
Whatever they did, do that. And now you'll never let that word how get in your way again to be able to, to be able to inhibit your potential dreams.
That is so good. I love that. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. So
My
appreciate
pleasure.
that. So as we wrap up, what do you have going on, or where can people find you? Where are you most active in social media?
All right. So Facebook is probably the place that you can find me most. But if you just type in my name, Dan Rochon, Rochon, you'll be able to find me on a monthly basis. I do host a 5-day listing challenge for real estate agents, and you could go to www.5daylistingchallenge.com. That's the number 5. And that's a place where real estate agents can find me. But if you're an investor, hit me up on social media. You can find me. I'd love to be able to talk to you.
That's awesome. We'll make sure to put all that information in the show notes. Anything that I did not ask you that you would like to share?
I don't think there's anything that you did not. What did you not ask me that I would like to share? I would say, how do you do a 45-minute interview with a cat crawling all over top of you? How is that possible? But besides that, I got nothing for you.
Besides that, okay, good. Well, hopefully the cat got something out of the conversation.
She got all of her fur. All of her fur is all over my desk here in the chair. Look, it's like I could put together a pom-pom here.
Funny. See, it was so good that the fur even was attracted to it. See, I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for your time. I know you're very busy and you had a long day. I'm sure tomorrow will be a day full of yeses. So thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Now, there you have it. You got a total education on mindset, on how to get to the yes, how to get over the no when you get it, because you will get it. So make sure that you subscribe to the show, listening on Spotify, on Amazon Music, or Apple Podcasts, where every week we bring you amazing people like Dan that are doing great things. So please know that I love you, that I'm rooting for you, and I'm going to see you super duper soon. Bye.